A couple daughters that went to Washington.
It's bad.
No, you can, but you don't want
I
to.
won't. Exactly.
Is it right
Exactly.
If they won't let you, let me know.
Oh, it's good. So
Yeah, some of that you got to be careful. That they would. It's like a job there.
right past church over there.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, did you ever call that guy back?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Awesome.
I talked to him and
It's over there.
a couple times and
Hey, Nick.
Hello.
and then went through it. I
Saturday
said,
morning
here's
for a while. He
here's it.
got some grapes.
I mean,
So
it's all we can do.
wanted me to start taking care of them this year, so we don't have any override
Talk to the
bill
man.
stuff.
She goes, oh yeah, we've been out there.
Then was over there Saturday.
Chief stepped up patrol.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I said,
Hey.
that's all we can
Hey,
do.
Mark.
I was just thinking. I don't think that applies to that.
The only thing I can tell you is move.
That's, I mean,
The political stuff.
I was like, I just don't
I think
know
so.
what to do. You know how to handle it, you know.
Well, I mean, he reached out to all of us like he should have.
Yep,
and
yeah.
We both responded, so
Honestly, I don't think that. I
We
think
did what we
that's
could
in
do.
there. That political
Do not
stuff.
solicit. That's just for sales stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
I'm
think
glad- I'm
I don't
glad
think
I
that
reached
applies
out
to
to him.
political stuff. I really don't.
Well, I am too, because I
You
thought
can
also
find
even
out.
just.
Yeah, you can ask because I remember reading that because it's like that's the only thing I really don't want.
So just lets them know that, you know, we're all kind of on the same page.
Have a union bug on it? Have a union bug on it?
I'm hoping we'll get rid of all this crap by July. I think we'll be there
I do too. Yeah.
close to the end. I mean, of course, an email I went down
Well,
to
I
wine and bar ribbon cutting.
Transportation
Somebody
Committee, I brought up your
there
concerns about, those things
got
lying
COVID.
about and so forth, and we had a long discussion. That lady came back
I wasn't 15
from Lyme. She was there for the meeting.
I just heard somebody else say,
Of course, the police department's always
like, I
there.
feel like I probably
My brother
went
John's
for like
company.
2 months and
As far as
now we're starting to hear about it.
Restores brick and block buildings.
Saturday ribbon cutting on that
I don't know
hotel.
how to call it. Leave them
Oh,
alone
yeah.
about.
God, that
Nice.
The only thing they respond to that is they have a
4 by 8 foot shower.
Really?
And then did you see those pictures?
I did see the picture.
Like
I
this?
did.
It's clear.
But what they're saying is
Get a
that
fog bag for
That was there
Oh,
one of the
Yeah,
days.
that's cool.
And it is.
Okay,
And then
these
toilet
they're saying
got a
would
separate
not be
closet.
beyond the day because they'll have a guy come
closet
every
and
night,
shower and
picks them up and recharge.
be in a
I
separate
know, Mark.
closet.
I just
That's nice.
played by it.
And then one
I've
king
seen
size
them way
bed.
too many. Nick has seen
Every
them.
room's
I've
got
seen
a
them
bed.
way too many mornings. I've been down there where they've been picked up.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Council workshop meeting, Monday, April 5th, 2021, 6 p.m. Hydrich,
Here.
Holtmeyer,
Here.
Obermark,
Here.
Hatke,
Here.
Pettit,
Here.
Scornia,
Here.
Solentrup, Wessels.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meetings dated March 1st, 2021? Hydrich. Aye. Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Obermark.
Aye.
Hatke.
Aye.
Pettit.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Wessels.
Aye.
Having read the minutes, are there any questions or comments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Obermark, to approve the minutes from our last workshop meeting dated March 1, 2021. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? For the votes, you have approved the minutes. Thank you.
Report of department heads, Communication Department, Aeronet Service Agreement.
Lisa?
Good evening, everybody. In your council packet tonight, you have a service agreement with Aeronet for providing us a internet circuit for our MostWin project. The circuit actually connects us to the state. There is currently one circuit in place, but we need to replace that with something from us. It's currently being paid for from the state. So I reached out to Greg Johnston for our IT technology information, and he was able to contact AT&T as well as Charter Communications to get some pricing information for the necessary circuit. AT&T, they wanted $625 for that line with a 3-year commitment, and Charter wanted $1,000 a month, and that's a month, $1,000 a month for the circuit, which provided us no redundancy. We do need that redundancy, so it would have been double that price. Aeronet was able to provide us the 2 circuits necessary for $500 a month with no contract. So they were selected to proceed with them for our circuit. So you'll have that in your council packet tonight for your approval.
Nice.
Do you have any questions about it? All right.
So does this get the MostWin all up and running?
Well, that's our next little letter. So, because obviously with this, and you know how much I've been talking about MostWin for years, we wanted to give an update as to where we are now and where we hopefully see this end in the near future. So, in case, to refresh your memory, we actually started talking about MostWin back in 2016. That's when a couple of the retired police chiefs and fire chiefs, they found out about it, that the state needed a tower site and offered up. We were able to give them tower space, and that allowed us to switch over to the MostWin network. So part of that project started out with having to have, and I shouldn't say having to have. So the existing backhaul equipment, which when I say backhaul equipment, I'm talking about the console equipment. It's actually what the dispatcher is using as they sit in dispatch. It's what we communicate over the radio to all of our emergency services. We set their tones, the whole bit from that system. That backhaul hadn't been updated. Those computers, as well as the backhaul, hadn't been updated since prior to 2006 when we moved into our existing building. Parts were becoming, you couldn't find them, the software was outdated, they weren't going to support it anymore, so we needed to update our console and our backhaul system no matter what. So that project was actually started in 2017. That was part of our half-cent sales tax. Originally budgeted was about $627,000, and that project was completed by the end of December for $538,000. So a little $88,000 less than what was originally budgeted. So that project was complete, and like I said, in 2017. Then we started with the next phase of that, and that would be put things in place for MostWin. We had to wait on the state level for a while. They had to do a lot of testing to see how much coverage they were going to have in our area and whether or not the Crestview Water Tower was going to provide them ample coverage. So they had to do some of their own testing as well. So they brought out a little satellite antenna and did a bunch of testing. Our police and fire department was able to participate in that testing, and the fire department went, obviously they cover a larger area, so they were able to test some of the rural areas as well. So once they had that in place, then we started looking at the mobile radios and the portable radios. So initially, that budget was put in for the half-cent sales tax at $825,000. That budgeted amount was actually received from a potential vendor who knew what project we were doing. They were also the vendor who provided us our console equipment. When we got ready to sit down and go over everything that was needed, it was discovered that they had omitted mobiles and portable radios for the police department. So when they discovered their error, it came back, and now their $825,000 was actually $1.1 million. So the budget went in at $825,000. We sought other vendors for potential mobiles and radios, and we did receive bids from two other vendors besides Motorola, and Command One was selected as our vendor of choice. They were the lowest and the best bid that we felt. So we started off with the portable and accessory portion of it. They were getting ready to release a new mobile radio, and we wanted to have that new radio. So we started out with the portables initially. So the portables, portables and the accessories came in at $486,000. And when I say accessories, some of those accessories could be, they were extra batteries. They were the leather carrying case necessary to put them on their uniforms and so forth. So the mobiles and the portables, that actually, the initial bid came in at $826,000. And then the accessories for the fire department and the police department, those leather carrying cases, we were able to remove that from that initial bid, and they went out to Boston Leather, and they were able to get that for a lesser amount than through Command One. So that actually was $5,000. So we also needed to change a little bit of the radio that we put in. The radio system that we put in operates off of a VHF. I know I'm probably, you guys are going, okay. But you're getting the lowdown, okay?
Yeah, I know, we need this.
So it operates off of a VHF platform, and MostWin is on 700, 800 megahertz. So we needed to have an upgrade conversion to our existing backhaul, which they call it, I had a K core, now I have an M core. Okay, it's just, so that was an additional $89,000. So to date, with our MostWin project, and everything that has been turned in, there is still one component that's left that the fire department is taking care of. So we came in at $920,000, which is $95,491 over the budget that was initially set forth in 2016. There are still 2 open purchase orders, and those are accounted for in this overall monies. So the next phase of that, there is some slight programming that still needs to be done at the console, stuff that needs to be added so that we can patch other networks into our existing radio. The police department, the fire department, and communications, emergency management, the whole bit. We also have to undergo training to utilize the MostWin network. They've submitted they had to submit their policies and procedures to operate on the MostWin network. Those have been approved on the state level, and so now we can get going with the training portion of that. The fire department still has to upgrade their pagers. Their existing pagers only work on VHF. They are not dual band, and Tim can speak to that as to where they are with that. So once all the training is done, they have their pagers in place, we can actually finally get on the network. I'm hoping that this will be complete by the end of May. That's my goal. However, that timeline is always dependent upon what Motorola's availability is and to get their technician out here. Okay. So one of the things that's very interesting with the MostWin network is that it is now monitored on a state level. So not only can they monitor my console radio, like they called me up one day and they said, hey, do you know that your command channel's not on your radio console? And I'm like, it's not? And he was right, it wasn't, because you had to provide them what stuff you wanted in your radio, and it wasn't. And I think it was last week or the previous week, they called me and they said, hey, do you know that you have an overheat alarm at your Crestview water tower? So they knew that there was an issue there, and I got a hold of Kevin, and Kevin got it taken care of. So they're able to monitor a lot of different things for us that may help, if we have an outage and that kind of thing. So, do you have questions about MostWin?
I was going to sink that in first.
I know, right? It's all in the letter, so feel free to contact me if you have any questions about it.
Lise, how will we make up that 94,000?
Looking at me.
Darren, you got an answer for that?
We will reevaluate our capital improvement sales tax and see where we're at with our funding or whatever. So we'll come back to you at a later date on that.
Well, how much did we save on the lease on that first project? You said it was under budget.
The first project came in 88,000 less.
So what can we do with that money, Darren?
What can we do with 88,000 we saved? Use it for the 94,000.
There we go. And now we're only in the whole $6,000. Makes it sound a lot better.
We'll take that out of Darren's
Sure, go ahead.
pocket. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions you might have?
The other police departments that we're dispatching for, are they going to be able to switch over also? Are they ready?
So they are going to remain on VHF channels. At some point in time, if they wanted to switch over to a MostWin network, that would require them to get new mobiles, new portables, and so forth. So right now, they'll stay on VHF. And even though we're switching over to MostWin, we will still maintain all of our VHF frequencies as a backup, because occasionally they do different site upgrades, through the state network, and at some point in time, ours may go down, and you have to have a backup. So we will still have our police main frequency. We will still have our fire department main frequency. In fact, we're going to continue to dispatch the fire department on the VHF frequency. And then when they go responding, they'll actually switch over to the MostWin network. So,
This will be ongoing, probably, 4 or 5 years out again, we'll be doing probably all over again, don't you think?
oh, please, no.
Well, I don't know, I'm just with
I might be
technology.
retired by then, so good luck.
You did a good job.
Oh, I
Well,
appreciate
it's been
that.
a
We all did a
long-
good job. Do
It's
it.
been a long journey.
It has
I
been a
mean,
very long journey, and a lot of that was, some disputes with one of the vendors, and I had to seek an outside source to get that resolved. And there's been lots of meetings between all of us and emergency services and moving forward. And we had some issues with the new mobile radios when they first got in, because they were a first, out the door kind of thing, and they've been working through that, and those problems have been eliminated almost completely. So,
Well, I just remember the first time the term MostWin came up, in a meeting, I was like, oh,
What's
what's
that?
this, and here we
yeah.
are, so,
Yeah.
anyway. All right, well, good job. Anybody-
Any other questions? Did I cover it well enough for the rest of you? Okay. In case they needed to back me up any. Excuse me? Oh, they are P25 compliant, which is a whole nother term, so I won't even go there with it.
All right,
So,
very good.
all right, anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Can we get a motion to move the Aeronet service agreement onto council?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Obermark, to move the Aeronet service agreement onto council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you moved it on. Thank you.
Economic development, website rebuild.
Sal?
Good evening. On your agenda tonight is a contract with MuniWeb to enter into services for them to rebuild our economic development website. As I'm sure you all are aware, we have our Washmo Works website that is specifically meant for economic development, selling properties and getting any business retention and expansion links quickly to businesses looking to do business here or expand. And so 2 years ago, we went out for proposals and did our main site, as you guys remember, and then we wanted all along to do this site. We didn't do it last year, it just wasn't a priority during everything going on, but wanted to get it done. So we went out to bids. We received 3 proposals. One was over 30,000, one was about 15, and this one was within budget about $5,100, and so we chose them, and not only with being the cheapest, but we went through their other cities that they did similar economic development websites, and they met the requirements, so we're confident that they'll be able to get it done. I believe it should be done by the end of June. So
Sal, is it a rebuild or are they just updating what's here?
it's a complete rebuild, so it will not be on GovOffice any longer. We'll have a different host through this. And so part of that contract does have an annual hosting fee, but that we actually pay, I think, if not more, very similar to what they're charging on the annual fee already. From what it looks like, their examples, it'll be a lot more modern than what we have now. So
Our existing one's 10 years old right now.
yeah, and we sent them a lot of examples of what we kind of wanted. There was one in Oklahoma that was similar size to us, but had a lot of good features that we sent to them, and they said, yeah, we can do something like that, no problem. So,
And you'll have the ability to do update content and,
yes, we included in the contract training for Sherry to be able to go through training with them, so she can still update our jobs, listings, and all that, properties as people come to us for property to sell and all that, so.
right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Make a motion, send it on.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Pettit, to send this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've moved it on. Thank you.
Emergency Management Department, homeless warming center status.
Mark?
Good evening, Council. Last time I was here speaking to you, I'm going to move this down for short people. Last time I was here talking about homeless, we were going into a period of near zero temperature. We were in the hole as far as money available to pay for the overnight stays. I think we were $7 grand in the hole at that time. So I was telling you that another fund drive was being done to raise additional monies to pay for the overnight stays. The first fund drive back in November approximately raised about $20,000. The second fund drive raised about another 55, so a total for both drives of approximately 75,000. As of today, there was a little over 45,000 left. We still have some nights of stay. There were some chilly nights, and there's still a little bit of money yet to pay, but we are going to have some money available in case this rolls into next fall, that COVID is still an issue and Mercy cannot provide overnight stays, that we have a fund to pull out of to pay for some of those overnight stays. So we're in very good position at this point, I would say, rolling into the next year. There was a successful campaign, and I have to give great thanks to the public for responding, and also to the faith-based groups. The churches were absolutely fantastic.
I was just going to ask if that does not get used for this specific purpose, does that county community resource group, do they have other?
Oh, they have needs. And matter of fact, it was discussed if that money could be opened up for for needs, other needs, but it was pretty well decided by the group that, hey, we approached the public and we said, hey, we need money for a warming center. It was sold as funds for the warming center, so we should stay true to our goal. And everyone agreed with that's what should happen, and bankroll that for next year. Now, I would, in answer your question, I would say yes, if Mercy starts to be available to do overnight stays again, then I would say the group would probably, say, yeah, let's serve the needs of the homeless. Any other question on the warming center? Okay, the second item is the Riverfront Historic Marker. That was a joint project between Emergency Management, Parks, and Engineering. We found out that State Emergency Management, the flood group in particular, and the Silver Jackets is a volunteer group of the Corps of Engineers, and they have a grant program where they provide historic flood markers. So we supplied a proposal for it. They agreed to fund our proposal to mark the historic flood of '93. We put an appeal out to the public for some pictures back from '93. That was a little bit of a challenge because we didn't have digital photos in 1993. We had, some color.
Oh, they were
hard copy photos, yeah. So that was converted digitally. We provided them with a digital copy, and it worked out perfect. I don't know if anyone has been down to the kiosk at the Riverfront, because the view that was selected is almost a perfect twin to the view when you look west. So you can see from the color picture on the mark at the kiosk that if you're standing at the kiosk, you would be underwater looking west. So it's on the east side of the kiosk at the Riverfront looking west, marking, the approach, showing where the 93 flood level would be. Plus, in addition to that, where it ties into engineering and John's MS4 requirements, it talks about flood education and wastewater recognition. So it is also a public education tool that is at a very prominent place in town at the riverfront. So people can look at the marker and, gain a little insight on flooding and wastewater and stormwater, and also meet the requirements that help John out on his MS4 education requirements. So it was a great togetherness project. Any questions on that? Okay, spring flood outlook, National Weather Service. I think I touched on it a little bit last time, but the spring flood outlook is good. It's the best that it's been in a number of years. The the basins upriver from us are in good shape this spring, the lowest they've been in years. So they're available to take on spring rains. So the spring flood outlook is basically just like we saw a couple of weeks ago, that the odds are that we'll just see some minor flooding this spring with local heavy rain. So that's sort of what's going on right now. For about the past week or so, Bagnall's been dumping about 55,000 cubic feet a second into the river that's, coming down into them from rains down south. So they're trying to get a little bit of head space at Bagnall as well. So we're looking good on spring flooding. Question on that? Okay, and then lastly would be the spoiling plant number 1 status. We had representatives from FEMA and EA Environmental in town last week doing a site visit. They plan on starting work again at the spoiling number 1 site on 6th Street. And they're looking at approximately June is when they'd be out. And what they're going to be doing, they're going to be adding additional monitoring wells around the site further out. So what they're doing is they're going out farther and going out deeper with monitoring wells to see if there's been any spread of the trichloroethylene spill that occurred at that site. So it's a slow process. I told you this a year or two ago. Actually, last year, really nothing got done because of COVID, aside from internal, work on their part. But now they're actually coming out and preparing to drill wells this summer, and then develop from that, from the data that they get from the additional wells, come up with a plan as far as what is the best way to mitigate that spill. It will most likely be pumping, the trichloroethylene and water out of the ground, but, they still have to develop a plan on what is the best way to handle the spill. So, we're talking about monitoring wells this year, and then I'm willing to bet, I'm speculating here. I have absolutely no, data to prove anything, but it'll probably go into winter and next year before we see an actual plan come out and start getting some work done to actually start getting the product out of the ground. So we're still years down the road.
Are we still monitoring the residents' houses across the street?
Across the street, the contractor put in some mitigation fans. They're a lot like radon fans is what they are. And as far as I know, yes, they're still doing reports on those. Okay. I did not confirm that with the vendor, but last I knew that they were. Right. And there will also be, I failed to point out, they'll also be doing some sampling of groundwater in Bush Creek, behind the high school, behind Mercy South / Patients First building. So they'll be checking that ground, that surface water there as well, to make sure no contamination has made its way into the creek.
And this was moved to a different tier or a different level, this whole project, so that it...
Yes, this whole thing, what we wanted to get into was what they call a Superfund site.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And we are a Superfund site. And, that was a little bit of a, concern at first, because there is a stigma, if you will. Not so much anymore, but there was, a stigma for a long time about being a city with a Superfund site, because, you know, the worry was that you had some big nasty leak that was a problem, and you know, this is a problem for the area. There's no doubt about it. I don't want to you know, understate that, but what we did by getting that into a Superfund site is now there's federal monies brought to bear to mitigate the problem.
Good. Very good.
It's just a long process.
Any other questions of Mark? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Engineering Department Landfill Amendment to City Code Section 220.015.
John?
Okay, good evening, council. This item was brought to our attention a couple weeks ago. It's more or less a cleanup verbiage item within the landfill code. If you have certain roll-off containers of a certain size, 20 yards, 30 yards, whatever it may be, you're actually charged a flat rate. The idea there, I think, or the intent was, in '96 when landfill was put in, was those are usually construction debris items, so it doesn't really have a weight that's very much. It's more of a volume type thing. Those things tend to fluff up. So a contractor reached out to us and just questioned us. Well, it doesn't specifically say roll off. It just says a container. So they were debating a little bit with us that, well, a trash truck is a container and all these things. So all we're looking to do is put the adjective roll off in front of what the original intent was. It's a cleanup item. Doesn't change the fees, doesn't change how we've been operating, it doesn't really change anything. I think they were just looking to maybe utilize our facility and thought maybe they had a loophole in the system. So, pretty straightforward.
Any questions?
Move this on to council. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Patke, to send this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you moved it forward. Thank you.
Schedule 4, no parking at any time amendment.
Okay, with the successful businesses that are down on Front Street, specifically at Market Street. I'm not sure if you guys have been down there, but we're kind of where Andy's building the condos, but to the east side of Front Street. We've been getting some calls regarding concern of parking at the radii right there. It's kind of a 90-degree turn. It is kind of hard to see around. So what this does is just make the area essentially 30 feet from the intersection, no parking. It will remove probably one parking stall. So one parking stall per each area identified, so 3 stalls total, roughly. But it is kind of a safety concern we do need to be cognizant of. If you choose to approve this tonight, Tony will work to get the signage up, and then I'll work with Chief on just enforcement.
John, is that, so I know the area well, and I'm curious, there's a fence set up now for the construction, and I'm wondering if the problem is exacerbated by the fence. It seems to be out farther than a building would be. So I'm not opposed to it. I'm just curious about if you gave that any consideration.
Well, the fence is a chain link fence. You can see through it. It was purposely not opaque in any way.
But I mean, the vehicles then are parked farther into the street because of the fence.
We did not take that into consideration, in all honesty. I do think you'll still have an issue trying to drive around that vehicle. It does, when anyone drives making a right turn, they tend to cut the corner a little bit, so you have to kind of go out wide around it. So it wasn't taken into consideration, but I still think it would be necessary to make it no parking. Again, the ordinance reads, I think it's 15 foot from any intersection anyway, or a stop sign or anything like that, so this just extends it. 30, it's basically just a full parking stall with a pull-out area.
Did you look at Jefferson in front at all? Because if you're going left from Jefferson Street and the traffic is coming from Market and there's cars parked there, you can't see it.
We've not. I mean, we haven't had any. I can do that.
Add that to your list.
Yeah, we can do
Just
that.
to look at.
So what was that, Jefferson?
If I'm heading north on Jefferson and I want to turn left on Front Street, and it's only going to be when those businesses are busy, so when people are, because there's no designated parking for the Front Street businesses that are down there. Mm-hmm. It becomes very difficult to see.
We can definitely look at that.
Thank you.
Market Street used to be the truck route. Is that still the case?
Sure did. No, it's not. That's a long answer, but So at some point years ago, there were specified truck routes in town. Actually, you'll see them right here. There's some signage actually right here at 4th and Jefferson, where it was called out on a map and says these are truck routes. I think the issue was, is that the code was changed to where if you were going to and from a place of business or a destination, that you could do that, right? I mean, it could do that. So, long story short, it was a bit more mainly due to the concrete plant, but
Right.
it is not. The only truck routes that exist in Washington right now that are designated on a map are Highway 100, Highway 47, and East 5th. There are only 3. We have discussed in the traffic committee without I think we actually had a solution to try to get these things properly signed. What we notice is you got all this old signage that when you leave, you can see it there, this old signage that needs to be replaced. Well, really, I felt that, I mean, there's 30 signs around town that are no truck. Really, no streets in town should be signed as no trucks because they're inherently no trucks unless you're going to a place of business.
Right.
And it's this weird, there's an ordinance, but like Chief and I have always talked, well, how do you enforce an ordinance of no trucks? I mean, you gotta get the guy's name, you gotta deal with, how do you manage that? So what we're trying to take an approach of is kind of reduce some of the signage and then sign where the truck route is. So rather than say no trucks, just say this is a truck route to see if we can combat that. But you're always going to have issues with people utilizing streets with trucks to some level.
The only reason why those streets were eliminated as truck routes was back in the day, if you were designated, this is before the transportation sales tax, if you were designated as a truck route, well, then the city would not assess you for any improvements that were needed to the streets. Because back at that time, they used to assess the property owners based on linear street frontage of what you had. That was what you got to bill for that. And so there was a lot of them, with the exception of truck routes. Well, after we passed the half-cent, well, it was even before the transportation sales tax, when we went to chip and seal prior to that, when we got rid of assessing people for those charges. Well, then the traffic committee at that time took a hard look at the committee and said, or look at the map and said, what's the reason? You don't need all of these truck routes within town. You just need the simple ones that you want people to go ahead and be on. If they're obviously getting off that path and going to their destination, that's fine. They have to. That's what they have to deliver.
So essentially, there is no need for truck routes.
I disagree to some level. I mean, a truck route is to basically get you through town, not necessarily get you to a place within town. So there is a, yeah, is the need very great? No. I mean, that's why for example, East 5th Street is the only one that is on a city street. Well, why is that? Because the farming community to the south, obviously South Point Road, that's the quickest route through, and they wanted to designate that as a truck route.
Well,
I know in the
traffic truck route to 47.
Yeah,
correct. But I mean, even for me and fellow, I mean, you're talking from South Point Road to Highway 47. That is the best way to go.
Correct.
So that I understand that. But why is 5th Street not all the way through that you don't, I mean, again, I'm not saying it should be, I'm just simply saying that we eliminated that. If 5th Street's not a truck route to the west,
it's not.
Then Front Street shouldn't be, and Market Street shouldn't, nothing else should be either.
We agree, we recognize that. Now, in the traffic committee, we've been discussing this. We have felt the need to add a couple to the truck route, the obvious ones, the ones in the industrial park. Like, why is Brook Road in Vossbrook not a truck route? I mean, that's the most obvious. But I mean, it kind of counters that concept of you're still going to a destination.
Correct. No one's driving through and not stopping.
Correct. And what that really does, though, is then it allows us then to sign, with the proposal on signage, it allows us then to sign West Main at West Link as a no truck route to try to keep some of these trucks off of Front Street. So it's a backwards way to do it, but it keeps the trucks where they more confined where they need to be going. Does that make sense? I mean, we see, I don't want to pick on any trucking, but, we see trucks that are on Front Street. We get those complaints. It happens. Send me a complaint. I'll get with Chief as fast as I can, but by the time we get anything done, they're already in Warrenton. How do you do
It's a
it?
reoccurring problem, and it's the same trucking company going a route
They
don't need to be going.
Correct. That's why I always encourage people to give me an identifier. I mean, a white truck it doesn't really help me out too much. So,
right.
But yeah, there will be more on truck routes. It's an ongoing thing that we're trying to get the signage figured out because some of the signage around town is.
So back to my original question was, I thought when it was a truck route, it was 30 feet instead of 15 feet from the curb. Then anyway, as far as the parking went.
I
so
don't
therefore,
believe I don't know that.
Okay.
I can look into that.
No, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, it's okay. I have no problem with this.
Regardless, it's not a
Back
truck
on that.
route, so it would still
Right,
fall into the
right.
15. So,
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Make a motion, send it on.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Pettit, to move this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've moved it forward. Thank you.
Hey, just one real quick. The stop sign at Market and Main,
stop sign at Market.
so we're only talking half a block away. Is that staying there, or is that only there during construction?
Staying there.
That's permanent.
Okay, that went through traffic and everything else
Correct.
to be approved to stay there?
Site distance issues.
Site distance issue there also.
Zero lot line going southbound up the hill, basically. And that's within the site triangle, essentially. So it's a safety concern going up the hill.
Okay.
And that's zero lot line. So you can't necessarily tell, I think, a private property owner that they can't put on zero lot line when the zoning code says you can.
Right.
So we have to then react a little bit to that. It wasn't a miss, it was more just a reaction, hoping that there was not an issue, but with that vertical incline, and then just with the building being there, it caused an issue. So, two more things real quick, updates, paving projects. Circle Drive, Esther, Robert Street, Terry Lane was added per contract. Market Street on that last block was scheduled to be paved. That is not going to happen at this time. We were hoping that we could keep up with Understall's schedule. We are actually ahead of them, knock on wood, ahead of them on schedule. So we don't want street cuts in a newly paved street, so we're going to pull that project and then take that quantity and then move it over to Terry. So it's kind of it's a minor change order, but I think it makes some sense. And the High Street, as you know, High Street's deteriorating, fairly quickly coming out of spring here, or going into spring. The contract is at MoDOT for review, and I'm just waiting to hear back from MoDOT on getting that taken care of. So two paving projects. We are working on getting a second paving phase out. Hopefully, once easements and things get taken care of in the next, maybe month and a half, and then we'll have a third one probably late summer as well. So I'm just trying to stagger all these out a little bit. Airport, 98% plans. That's probably the best estimate I have. They just want a couple comments from us to send that to MoDOT for review. So that's moving pretty quick. Once it goes to MoDOT, then you got the whole federal delay, I guess, maybe MoDOT, FAA, MoDOT, and back to us. So it takes time.
Does Jokerson have the proceed on the High Street?
They do not. That we're still waiting.
that what
All
you said?
contractual items have been taken care of. It's just, we are waiting for MoDOT to issue us the notice to proceed. So we requested that every 3 weeks, I think, is what we had on the schedule, the concurrence letter is what they call that. So MoDOT issues we agree with your bid letter, basically. So that was issued internally within MoDOT, I think, mid-January. We asked every 3 weeks until the middle part of March, where you at, where you at, where you at? It's not done yet, not done yet, not done yet, until somebody found it on MoDOT's desk. So that delayed the project wonderfully, and there's not really much I could do with it. It's just,
That's what it is.
it's a lag with policies and procedures at their level. It's probably the best way I can say it.
Worth it for the 80% funding.
Yeah, it's 80%, so 80 cents on the dollar.
I
It makes
understand.
sense. We also have an RFQ out for Jefferson Street, so for consulting firms. And remember, that's an overlay from 100 to 5th Street, sidewalk, curb and gutter, the whole 9 yards, all the way through the corridor. And then I also may look at trying to do some with this intersection here to see if I can improve some of those turning radii, which that was not part of the initial scope, but we'll be seeing what right-of-way is available and how much participation we get from the neighbor property owners. So that's all I have.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, John.
Fire Department ladder truck headsets amendment.
Good evening, council. A couple of weeks ago, it might have been last month, you approved headsets for a number of pieces of equipment, including the ladder truck. We need a budget amendment for the ladder truck because it hit the fixed asset number. So this is a request for a budget amendment for a total of $8,083.63 out of the Fire Department Reserve Fund.
Make a motion.
Second?
We have a motion by Hydridge, seconded by Obermark to send this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've moved it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The second item this evening is a request for some RIT packs, the Rapid Intervention Team packs. Basically, it's a compressed air cylinder that we use in our self-contained breathing apparatus and firefighting. When we did the SCBA grant, our SCBA project, we originally did 3 of them. One's on the ladder truck, one is in Croco in the service truck out there, and one is on our rescue truck. What's come to light is that we're running a lot of mutual aid. Typically, those are fires, and our neighboring departments don't necessarily have that piece of equipment that interconnects with ours. So as a safety piece, I'm asking that we add these RIT packs. This is part of the capital half-cent improvement budget. We originally, to go back to your question earlier about the money mark, our original budget was $250,000 for the SCBA project. To date, we've spent about $68,000, I believe, with a joint venture with the Fire Protection District. They received a grant. This would be just under $30,000 was budgeted. This is coming in at $22,000. So there's about a net of about $155,000 that we did not spend out of the capital improvement tax. So this is a request for the RIT packs to be one on each of our engines at that point, our ladder truck and our rescue squad, so it would pretty much fill out the main fleet with this safety piece of equipment.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Hydridge, seconded by Holtmeyer to send on the SCBA RIT packs. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you moved it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be coming to dovetail on what Lisa said. We've been working through pagers, replacing that. That's the last piece that we have to do in order to get the communications. We are able to talk to dispatch, and they can talk to us on the MostWin network. So we're excited about that. There's some huge advantages to it. There's some challenges with it as well. And so the pager piece of it's the last piece. It is budgeted this year. We have been working some of them through. I believe the 3 guys here are firefighters tonight. We have the new pagers, so they're a bit bigger, big bulkier, but they do both bands, and so we're able to listen to both of it. So we are working through that, and hopefully we'll have that done in the near term, bringing a bid out to you for that as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Parks Department, Agnes Nolting, Aquatic Complex contract.
Good evening, Council. In your packet, you'll see a letter about the lifeguard contract, which includes management, maintenance, and guarding fees. We went out to bid recently, this past winter. Sent it out to several companies, received 1 bid back. I know the Y was interested at one point, but I talked to the executive director there, and she said that after looking at it and talking with staff, they just weren't able to participate at this time. So we do have the 1 bid from our prior company that we used, Midwest Pool Management. We went out to bid for a 1-year contract with the city's options for 2 additional years. And this is a price increase over the last time we went out to bid, which was also a 1-year contract with 2 additional years. And so that was back at the beginning of 2018. Having talked to a number of Parks and Rec agencies in St. Louis, this company obviously does manages a lot of those pools. And I know, talking to other directors, they were concerned about price increase. But the thing you have to remember, at least from our past contract, which was 2018, the minimum wage price has gone up significantly since that time. And so our price increases, you see quite a bit of price increase in the staffing costs. And we did save some money this year with the pool being new. The pool builder will be doing some startup maintenance that would be otherwise handled by MPM. So we did save a little bit of money there this first year on that. Also, some things to take in consideration with this contract is We are extending our hours in several ways. First, we're staying open regular hours, which would be 12 to 6:30 during the fair week, which in the past I believe we've closed early or weren't even open at all at various points. Then also, if we were open that week, even on a limited basis, that was our final week. Whereas this year, going to the new pool will be open 1 week after the fair. So you have a whole additional another week that people will be able to use the pool on Sunday through Saturday. And so our last day would be August 15th. And then we did as a bid alternate, because we weren't sure how it would come in, to do 2 additional weekends in August, which would be Saturdays and Sundays in August after that last week, after August 15th, and then Labor Day weekend. It's our last day. So Labor Day weekend we'd be open Saturday, Sunday, and Monday the holiday. So Monday the holiday, Labor Day would be the last day that the pool would be open in 2021 if we accept the alternates, bid alternates. Excuse me. And so if you, in addition to the maintenance fee, management fee, and the actual staffing fee, we include a $15,000 line account in our budget for programming. And so that money, or those funds are used to pay for lifeguards when we have pool parties, rentals, lifeguarding classes, all things that we would be bringing in revenue for above what the cost of lifeguards would be. And so that takes us to the $167,360. And like I said, I didn't know when I was doing the budget process exactly where this would come in at, and so I budgeted $150, which was what we used in the prior contract. And so we're a little over budget, which you'll see shortly here in a budget amendment. I think that covers everything. Any questions?
Wayne, I've long been a critic of this, obviously on the Parks Board, but have we ever looked into what it would take for the city to do this in-house? Are we talking another employee? Is it an office? Is it someone to manage there? Has that ever been the numbers worked out there as far as what it would take for the city to do that in-house?
I haven't looked into it necessarily. I can tell you we're already having problems. So we're taking on the concession stand this year, and it's already becoming a lot of work for the one staff person that's handling that, and that's just hiring an additional 9 staff members and training them and everything like that. And I know there was I don't know if I heard it on the news. There was something nationally just last week that came out saying there's a lifeguard shortage around the country. Even these companies that are lifeguard companies are having hard times finding lifeguards now. Where in the past they knew all the tricks of the trade and seemed to have from what I've seen in my history, had a much easier, they just had done it for so long and had all the tricks of the trades down compared to like a municipal Parks and Rec department. They had a much easier time hiring people. Now, after talking with them and then seeing the news article, even companies like that are starting to have a hard time just because it seems like the younger people don't have to work these days. I haven't looked into it, but knowing how this concession stand is going already, it would take at least, I would think, another staff member, full-time staff member to do that, because the current staff member that we have now she was just doing day camp, and that was a big chore in itself, but now I'm asking her to do day camp and concession stand and the front desk for the pool. And so that's a lot of part-time staff that are reporting to her, and when there's issues with money or computers and things, they're all calling her. And it's something we could probably look into in the future. I'd hate to have to try to do that for the first year of the new pool.
Right, yeah, I'm not saying we have to. I just like to have a comparison of what we think it would cost. No different than cutting the grass. What it costs to do it in-house or to get it contracted, yeah. It's kind of the same thing, so.
I just think it's trickier with the labor market these days, and like Wayne said, this first year with the pool, we wanted to at least get it open. We can certainly take a look at it, but I think you always have a challenge of trying to find somebody for that window of of working for, hire somebody just for that session of the.
Sure, right.
That's the challenge.
So Wayne, in your schedule you're talking about, so if I'm counting right, you're looking at, what, 9 additional days, the pool? I'm looking at the 5 for the fair and then a couple weekends that you didn't used to?
3 weekends additional.
Well, and
Yeah,
5
three,
for the
so
fair
three
and the
is
week after the fair.
Week after the
4,
fair is
6,
additional,
7.
and then
Okay.
3 more weekends after that.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
it's
Yeah, that's a lot of days.
7 weekend days, right, 2 August weekends and a fair, holiday weekend, that's. yeah,
Have we ever,
7.
has the pool ever been open all hours during the fair?
It had.
I think
for
a long
couple
time ago,
years,
yeah.
I mean, but it's been a while.
I was just curious as to how that works out,
I
if
can't
that's a-
remember the last time the pool was open until Labor Day.
Yeah, I think it's been a long time from what staff's told me.
I mean, I don't remember.
Well, certainly that number of days would account for a big chunk of what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Hey, Wayne, I've been getting some feedback about these fees for the banners, for the ball fields. I thought we were still talking about that. I thought it was still in the works, and some associations said they received a letter stating that the fees are already going through, that they have to pay for these banners. I thought there were some questions that we were still, I know Councilman Salentrup asked about
That was for the.
There was a question about tournament
for a
fees.
one-day thing and
Right.
this and that.
Yeah.
Like the Little League football, they only have things up for one day.
No, I think with the fees that were passed.
But that's their choice. Right now,
Yeah.
we didn't even know that they had any up for one day, you know what I'm saying? But that was by their choice. I mean, I guess they could have done what Legion did, just hung them up all season, but they decided on their own to take them down. But now with that, what council passed last meeting is they can leave them up the whole season if they want. But tournaments are different than regular season, so I think that's maybe where what I brought to you last time was just for the regular season. And that's where Steve, I think, or someone brought the question about tournaments in, because at that time, I had the fees the same for tournaments and the season. And I think that's where the question was. And so I've since, it's going to Park Board on Wednesday, I've since lowered the fee for tournaments from 50 to 25.
Okay, so there's nothing that, so it's still $50 if they just have it up on a Saturday for a football game?
Correct, but they can leave it up the whole, they don't have to take it down.
It could be $50.
If it's during the regular
It could be
season.
$50 for how many weeks?
Yeah, however long, from August to November.
6 weeks or whatever they play.
6 weeks?
Yeah, I guess, I
Yeah.
don't know, 6, 8 weeks.
So
whatever they-
$50 for that entire time per banner. Whereas if you did it every day, and even if you approve it at 25, they're gonna be money ahead if they just put it up and leave them up.
I guess I was sleeping during that part. I thought we were gonna come back and talk about that a little bit more, so, that's my fault. But, and then also, get a lot of people complaining about the new playground out on, High Street, over there by the, they're saying it's not little kid, feasible. You can't put little kids on it. I don't know, I haven't been.
I mean, I don't know what exactly what the definition of little kids is. I believe it's, if I remember right, it's rated from ages 5 to 12. So if it's under 12, or under 5, I'm sorry.
I guess that's the ages they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the older playgrounds that we removed, I think, I could be wrong, I think they were age rated the same, but I think they had different features that may have been easier for little kids, even though they weren't technically in the age range yet. But I mean, just down the street, we have the All Abilities, which, they can get around pretty well.
That's exactly what I told them as well, but,
I have heard some of those same complaints, but, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think, I could be wrong, the old playgrounds, I think, had the same age requirements. But I think they just had different features that may have been easier for little kids to use.
That was the Kiwanis-supported one, correct?
any tentative date on Phoenix Park playground?
I think,
Send the capital improvement sales?
yeah, towards the
I
end.
know you tell me that every time, but
Well,
that doesn't give me a,
It's like
I mean, they've been asking that,
20
they've been asking for that for 15 years.
5 or 6, it's towards the
Well,
very end.
I know, but we brought it up in 2018, the capital improvement sales tax. It's identified, it's 2026, I think, is when it was in there.
Yeah, I think it's last year, or towards the end.
It's in your
So
budget.
what do we have to do to get that bump forward?
Knock another project off and move it?
Okay. I think we need to knock a project. Ward Two's been patiently waiting for a long time for that. Thank you, Wayne.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so,
Make
do we,
motion, council. Make a motion. Second.
okay, so we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Patke, to send the aquatic complex contract on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you sent it on. Thank you. Pool budget?
Amendments?
Okay, in your packet, you'll see an explanation for 4 budget amendments, all related to the pool. The first 2 are related to the concession stand. As I alluded before, we're taking that in-house when I was doing the budget this past year. I wasn't sure where we were going to go with that, if we were going to kind of try to continue down the road of having an organization do it, or if we were going to do it in-house. And after some discussion with Darren, and with the pool being new and the concession stand being new and us buying equipment and everything like that, we both kind of agreed to let the city go take a shot at it and use some of this equipment and have a little vested interest in it. And so these fees, or these budget amendments, the first one is for staffing to run the concession stand, and then the second one is for purchasing of food and products and paper products and things like that for the concession stand, which would be offset by revenue. Third, I should say, the $12,000 for pool chemicals. I didn't mention that when we were talking about the pool contract, but in an effort to try to keep that pool contract in check and as low as possible, I talked to the contractor and asked ways where we, I was trying to find out if we were including things that they were really upcharging for, or things that they thought were a hassle and stuff like that. And the biggest thing I got out of that discussion with the contractor is that pool chemicals, she told me that they were probably going to upcharge some on the pool chemicals. This new pool will use less pool chemicals than the old one, which is great, but there was no history on pool chemicals with the new pool, and so they were going to shoot on the high side. So she said, if you want to, the suggestion is that you be billed, take the pool chemicals out of the contract and just be billed how you use them. So the contractor would still order them, and then we would be billed separately from the pool contract on the pool chemicals that we actually use, instead of them lumping them into the contract with a high dollar amount. And so with that said, then I didn't have a pool chemical line in the pool budget, so I needed to add one. And this $12,000 is an estimate, probably on the high side, along with the concession stand numbers. Those are probably on the high side also. Just wanted to make sure I had everything covered. And then finally, the $17,000 for the pool contract, that's the amount that I'm over from the previous contract. So it was $17,000 short from the old pool contract now to this new one that you just approved.
Any
questions?
questions?
I think
Comments?
he's going to have to arm wrestle Lisa for Chief Frankenberg's extra money on this one. he saved some of it.
Make a motion, send it on.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Obermark, to send the pool budget amendments on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've moved it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
Police Department Fiscal Year 2019 State Homeland Security Program Counterterrorism Officer Equipment Grant.
Evening, Council. 2 years ago, Department of Homeland Security sent out information to establish certified counterterrorist officers. So we got that information, and it's free training, so we sent an officer. Nathan Pinter was our first and some of the first in the country as a counterterrorism officer. That entailed gathering intelligence information on organizations around in our community and county, and disseminating information and acquiring information and sharing with Department of Homeland Security and getting information to them on activities that may be occurring in our area. So they wanted to continue every year with getting another officer. So right now, Officer Casey Hill is getting certified, which is good because Detective Pinter left us. Part of the grant this past year was applying for a computer laptop provided at 100% by Homeland Security that would have software from Homeland Security and let them converse about intelligence information back and forth and make inquiries. Nathan left, but we still got the grant, so that's been assigned to Officer Hill. So that was free training, free equipment. I just wanted to praise you this because we'd like to continue this and continue forward since we started to get equipment. There's a chance for other equipment in the future, and just make sure the council is all right with us doing that.
Any comments? This is just a discussion.
Thank you.
Any comments? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief, for bringing us up to speed. Darren, do we want to do an executive session now?
No, we'll go ahead and wait till later after the city council meeting.
Okay, sounds good. I guess we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?